Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Today we've got another Pictures Worth 1,000 Words video. In this one we're going to look at a picture of the ship while she's in mothballs. Just talk about a couple of the features that show up in that picture that let us know what's going on and why the Navy chose to do things that way. So, starting at the top of the picture, here we have the ship's superstructure. You can see all of the antennas and things that are added during the Vietnam deployment. So this is clearly when the ship is in mothballs between Vietnam and the 1980s. In fact, I believe this picture is from 1981, when New Jersey is nominally in the best material condition of any of the Iowa-class battleships because she's been restored the most recently. Interesting, if you look on top of both the Mark 38 Director and lower than that the Mark 37 Director, you can see that there is no radar antenna installed. So in both instances, the antennas have been removed while the ship was in mothballed. As we scroll down, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen a quadruped mast on a smokestack, and some of the aluminum covers the igloos that go over the 40mm guns. So that is clearly Missouri. Iowa and Wisconsin had a different mast. So that means Missouri and New Jersey are on opposite sides of the pier from each other. This is in Bremerton, Washington. So you can see Missouri is still in her 50s configuration with 40mm guns covered up with the old style mast. That's pretty much all you can see of her in the right-hand corner of the screen. As you come down, you can see that the 16-inch guns are at 0 degrees elevation. Normally, they're kept at around 5 degrees elevation, which is the loading angle, or you might even see them at 15 degrees elevation, which is pretty common for them when they're trying to look good, you know, sailing around harbor, manning the rails, that sort of thing. However, in mothballs, they seem to always return them to 0 degrees elevation, which is the case here. You can also notice that the bloomers, the rubberized canvas covers that go over the between the gun house and the breech end of the gun to keep water from getting into the gun house, are not there. Instead, you can see steel plates, oval-shaped steel plates, attached to the face of the turret. And that's probably why they return them to 0 degrees elevation. That's the easiest to cut the plates and slot them on there. Looking at the muzzles of the 16-inch guns, you can see that they have a wooden plug in them, and particularly if you're looking at the center barrel, you can see that it's got a metal star on it. These are the actual tompions that the ship used during Vietnam, so it's very interesting seeing that they just put the tompions in and covered them in caulk. In the 1990s, when the ship is mothballed, we see basically they cover the muzzle of the guns with duct tape. They pack it and cover it with duct tape and paint it. So I'm wondering if they had a bad experience with the wood. They're in Bremerton. It's very damp there, so the wood, especially after the varnish rots off, the wood will then start to rot, which will allow water into the gun barrel and therefore into the gun house because the breeches are kept open. So that's probably why they go to just cover it with duct tape and plastic wrap and then paint over it. We have some of the ship's Vietnam-era tompions in the museum's collection from the Navy. So it is possible they had multiple sets. It's possible that when they reactivated the ship, they saved the original tompions and got them cleaned up again, because the Vietnam-era ones are a little bit different from what we see in the 80s pictures.
Another thing that we have from Navy History and Heritage Command are one of our Vietnam-era tompions. So these go on the end of the 16-inch gun barrels. They are made out of wood. They are quite heavy. This is turret 2 for the left gun, it says on the back. But yeah.
Let's see. And then, of course, as we come down, look at that deck. Look at all the rust streaks on that deck. Look at how chewed up that wood is. That deck is an absolute mess. I don't know why we maintain a mothball fleet in Bremerton. It is so damp there, and that is so bad for long-term preservation of ships. The deck there looks about as bad as it was when we got the ship from the Navy. Of course, at this point, the ship has been in mothballs for 12 years, from 69 until 81. The ship then was in mothballs for about 9 years, from 91 until around the year 2000, when the museum acquired the ship. So during that roughly decade in each case, it was just enough for rainwater to get in through all the plug holes in the wood and cause the studs that are holding the wood in place to rust, and then that rust jacking pops the plug holes up, allows more water under there, which causes more rot and rust. And so we're seeing that. Of course, pretty famously, the Navy did not pay to redeck the Iowa-class battleships in the 80s. Only Wisconsin, the last one reactivated in 1988, got a brand new teak wood deck. New Jersey had some spot patches here and there during her career. In some cases, not even with teak wood. In other cases, it was a laminate of fir and teak. In all cases, by the time the museum got the ship, it looked about as bad as this. It's interesting because the Iowa-class battleships were maintained in the highest level of readiness for mothballed ships, so that they could be brought back as rapidly as possible in the event of a national emergency. All these cases, New Jersey, basically it took a full calendar year to reactivate the ship. The other Iowas, which had not been reactivated for about a decade longer than New Jersey, took 2 or more years to get back into service. So if that's the highest readiness state we have, shoot, most of the wars we fight will be over before an Iowa-class battleship could be reactivated. Maybe that's one of the decisions that went into drastically reducing the mothball fleet to what it is today. Now, one interesting thing, if we go back up the superstructure and look at that 010 to 011 area where the superstructure sort of comes out in a T shape, the solid part, not the lattice part, the antennas for the ECM, the solid part branched out in the superstructure, that is how you always identify New Jersey based on her sister ships. But you can see a major difference here from how the ship is nowadays. If you look at the block there, it goes all the way up to the top of the bulwark on the 011 level. So basically it is a completely solid railing up there. Well, on the wings where it tees out, that railing gets cut back down to deck level, and they put in a traditional railing that's actually made out of fiberglass instead of steel, because that's where, probably just a couple of months after when this picture is taken, they install the Slick 32 electronic countermeasures of the 1980s through contemporary. So the steel bulwark there would have interfered with that, so they cut it away and replaced it with an open fiberglass railing. So that is interesting. I'd never noticed before that that bulwark goes all the way up to the top of the railing. So you learn something new every day. Also notice how the bridge is completely plated over with the windows there, so that the UV light from the sun doesn't go in there and damage all the electronic equipment. All right, so after our last picture's worth 1,000 words, a lot of you guys sent me great action shots of the ship firing her guns and doing other stuff. But we chose to do this mothball picture because it has some cool stuff that we've never seen before. We've seen 1,000 pictures of the ship firing her guns. So, did you learn anything new from this picture? Let us know in the comment section down below. Did you notice anything in this picture I didn't mention? Drop a mention down there. And are there any other pictures you'd like to see us cover in the future? We're going to throw videos like this in a couple times a month as we continue on forward. So if you've got any cool pictures, head over to my Facebook page, which we've linked down below, so you can send those pictures. It's really difficult to share pictures here on YouTube. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State. also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your support, and there's also a link in the description below if you'd like to continue supporting the museum and our YouTube channel. You can also support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find out about the work we're doing. Thanks for watching.